come to our final review, which is A Quiet Place Part 2, which continues the adventures of the family from A Quiet Place Part 1 as they leave their cabin and more try to seek out in the world to find shelter and safety. Emily Blunt reprised her role, and John Krasinski, who also directed it, has a cameo in the opening scene where we actually get to see when, I guess, the initial infestation or attack happened, which also introduces us to some characters that we will see later in the film. I will say, look, A Quiet Place, I liked what it achieved in the first place when it came out. I wasn't like in love with the film, but I liked the film. And this one surpasses it because there's a reason why it's called A Quiet Place Part 2 and not A Quiet Place 2, because this generally continues the story. It builds more of the world outside of the shelter that they were in, even though for the most part, it's another shelter. But, we get to see other characters and how they've survived and how some aren't, good-hearted and how evil this has changed them and made them. With a Scoot McNairy, who I didn't even recognize, as one of the main villains. But the opening scene is just beautifully paced, when they first attack. How do you say his name? Cillian Murphy?
Cillian Murphy.
Yes. He's a good addition to the cast as, I guess, the male lead role. And this kind of felt like a Scooby-Doo adventure to a certain extent, because then everybody is separated and seems to go off on their own adventure and their own encounters throughout. I like that this movie has more minority characters. One nitpick is Demon Hansu, who, again, as he always does in these movies, plays these stoic characters, only here he doesn't stick around that long. And what's worse, his character doesn't even get a name. He's just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. What about my children? After he gives this wonderful speech about community. So that was like my one nitpick. I'm just like, oh, so we're sticking to that cliche, huh? And I like that while the mother and son are trying to, battle this monster, more the, the daughter and I guess their neighbor, he's more, trying to deal with the humans at first until, the aliens show, their smarts. I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would, so I think definitely this is the strongest film for John Krasinski as a director, or that he's shown as a director. What did you think of A Quiet Place Part 2?
Pretty much the same as you. I enjoyed it more than the first one. I thought the beginning, showing how everything starts, all the madness, like when he's like trying to get out of the supermarket, trying to run to his family at the ball game. I thought that was a really good way to kind of like show what happened before the first film. And I do like that they expanded it out, so it wasn't just all about these aliens chasing after Emily Blunt and her family, but then seeing like the survivors are just as nuts. It's sort of like it's turned into Walking Dead in a way, where you have like these human characters that are much worse than the aliens, because they're trying to survive and they're willing to kill anybody to do so. And yeah, Cillian Murphy, I think, because I missed John Krasinski to a certain extent, but he was a good fill-in for that part as like a strong male hero in the film. So yeah, overall, I thought it was in some ways an improvement, and I would recommend this one.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy gives a different energy here because, he's lost his family. So, he's still kind of like, you don't know what he's going to do once into the next, where you always knew John Krasinski would do anything to save his family. So he was more stoic, so I liked that aspect of it. And I like that this film had more jump scares, and with like the sacrifice of Demon Hansu, it showed no one is safe. No big name character that you think will survive is safe. And this is one of those films where I think maybe the sequels can be better than the original as they drift a little bit away from what the first film was. Sort of like the Purge movies, the Friday the 13th movies, where the sequels are a little bit more memorable than where it all started, you know? So like I said, I feel like any sequel is just going to open up the world and see the safety and devastation. Like this is what was it? I Am Legend should have been, you know, like this is the kind of like uncertainty the movie should have, plus better special effects. But you know, I definitely highly recommend A Quiet Place too.